Greetings and salutation. How's everybody doing? So, well, this time I'm looking at the final season episode of um Ncuti Gatwa's run as the Doctor. In this case, the episode the Reality War. Before I talk about it, though, I have a question for you. We are? For you. So, basically this episode was like the continuation of the previous episode, in which, like, the Doctor has slowly come to realize, like, say, hey, yeah, the Rani, they are wanting something. And anyway, basically, he's basically to get all of his memories back and all that. However, like, in a way, once that's figured out, there is a bit of a giant bit of a climactic battle between the Doctor, the Rani, and as well the awakening of the oldest time Lord, in this case, Omega. There was a lot I had to say about this episode, but then keep in mind this episode was a feature-length film long. I have some things I like about this episode, in that, like, when it comes to, like, say, there's usually we'll have, like, when we're watching it, and we'll have those, like, say, those little remarks where you go, like, say, such as, like, say, when the Doctor meets up with Anita again. And if you don't remember her, she was in the episode Joy to the World, which was the most recent Christmas episode. And it was honestly pretty cool to see that character again.
It's so good to see you. Honey, somebody else is pleased to see you too.
In that, like, while the Doctor was going on adventures with Belinda, she was, in a way, becoming the hotelier of the Time Hotel. One thing that made it really interesting, though, is that, like, whenever, like, she was, like, say, hey, I missed you, buddy, I missed you, because they had gained a bit of a friendship during the time when he was at her hotel. Like, she sees all these different moments in his life and all that. And the one thing I will say is that I really like it, the moment, like, say, okay, after every, like, they've had all their little hugs, they're like, say, hey, I missed you, and all that stuff. One thing that ends up happening is that the Doctor ends up, he goes back to the home where Belinda is at, and he ends up saying, okay, time to get rid of this suit. And I do love his, like, say, almost dress pants suit thing he wears. And I've been kind of having that I kind of used to get that reaction from family, in that, like, say, what are you wearing? Nowadays it's just like, say, well, okay, sure, we're going with this. And yeah, one thing that I kind of wish could have happened, is that one thing that's happening is, like, say, the Doctor ends up going to the unit building, and then he goes, like, say, okay, everyone, I'm the Doctor, and everyone, like, you need to remember everything, and all that. And it did make me think of a bit of a side thing, a sequence in which the Doctor is going to say, okay, hey, everyone's back, and then Donna's daughter um comes back, and I'm just in that moment when the doctor like has basically the doctor's basically she comes back, and in that moment like when the doctor goes like said, well, Conrad couldn't have thought about you, and Conrad wouldn't have thought about you, and in that moment I thought like say, so you're just telling us, Conrad, confirmed transphobe? Maybe.
Rosie! Conrad. Conrad couldn't imagine you for even a second, so you didn't exist. But now you are.
Maybe, I don't know. And then as that ends up going on, like, say, you have the big battle, like, between, the doctor unit and the, unversed creature things. They look like skeletal dinosaurs and all that. That was fairly, a bit fun. There was one thing that, like, say, yeah, the doctor is eventually able to have a bit of a sequence in which he goes up against the Rani, and as well as Lily, go that way. In which Lily, in which the Omega does show up, and it does make me wonder, like, say, okay, are we gonna have a moment in which, like, we have an actor portray the character? And that would have been awesome. It would have been such a bit of, like, say, hey, return to magic of the classic era. At the same time, it's just like, say, nah, giant CG monster.
My little doctor. It's been a very long time.
I don't want to be too critical of that, because, yeah, like, say, if you have the budget, go for it, I guess. At the same time, like, if you can, like, have, like, this big, like, battle, like, say, between the Doctor and, like, a classic era of Who, why just have a big CGI monster? Like, why? And then, eventually, the Doctor is able to beat him by using, the, uh, the, basically the thing that he had been using whenever he would go to different locations and all that. What ends up happening as the episode goes on, everyone goes like, say, hey, we've been able to save everyone. But Ruby and goes up, going to say, hey, well, what about your daughter Poppy? What about her? Because, well, they're able to save her, but what ends up happening is afterwards, they're like, they put her in the TARDIS. But what ends up happening is she ends up disappearing, and then no one is able to remember her. Only Ruby. And yeah, I can honestly say, yeah, like, the dramatically, it makes sense because, like, Ruby is really trying to help the Doctor understand, like, say, hey, you've saved multiple lives. Why not go for one and all that? And at the end of it, though, like, he is able to, like, go back, and we get a return of another character. In this case, the Jodie Whittaker's doctor.
We never change. All these faces, and we never really change.
And I think she works off well with Gatwa. I think they do a pretty good job when it comes to, being goofy and all that. And I'll be honest and say, like I did not expect at the end of the episode when basically it's revealed, like, say, hey, the reason why Belinda was trying to get home was because she was trying to get home to her daughter and all that. And I just thought, wait. I don't remember anything unless this was the whole point of it, and then the way the Doctor ended up creating Ruby, Poppy. Basically they came creating Poppy because of Conrad's wish and all that. And the regeneration. I have a lot to say about that. And although, like, say, the way, the little monologue that, Gatwood does, and at the end of it, like, when he is trying to run around and, like, the lights are fading in the TARDIS as he goes to the exit, to the door of the TARDIS, and he's just, like, sees the, like, one star in the sky, which is supposed to be Joy, from Joy to the World episode. And then basically it's time to regenerate. I'm gonna say this. Well, I find the idea of the character, Billy Piper, to play the Doctor, now going from the companion to now the Doctor, I think it's an interesting choice. Yet at the same time, I don't really know if it makes sense. But then again, this show has always jumped the shark in a way. So I guess maybe I would have to like give it a bit of leniency in a way. So yeah, at the ending with hit with the Doctor regenerating into almost Rose Tyler and all that, it did make me think like say like I know some people are gonna say, well, Peter Capaldi was once in the show, and then he was got to play the opportunity to play the Doctor. So like I think this is a bit different because how are you going to be able to make it so unless characters don't really know then again, like say he doesn't really know anyone who now in the show who is going to be brought back to like say, hey, you look like a Rose or something like that, unless they bring Mickey back, all that, or maybe not. It's I feel like say this was a bit ballsy, I'll say that. So yeah, I'd say at times this episode was entertaining. It had that bit of moments of heart to it. It had those bits of spectacle. I do wish it could have done a bit more when it came to the use of instead of doing a CG monster with the character of Omega, but because then again last season with Sutek, he was a giant CG monster. So I'm guessing that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to make a scary monster and all that. But yeah, I guess that's what they wanted to do. But what's your thoughts on this one? This is a big one. Because, we're not going to get a return of this show until 2027. So yeah. See you next time.